Hey, what's up? This is Kazak Peru. We're here with another video for you. In this video, I want to talk about how to use crystal magic. Before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. And if you're interested in taking your understanding of the esoteric to the next level, please click on the links below to download our ebooks. We have ebooks that really expand more into the matrix, more of a journey down the rabbit hole. Also, if you're not already a supporter of ours on Patreon, please consider doing so. You can do so for as low as $1 or $5 or $20 per month. You can cancel anytime and you'll get instructional videos, a whole library of instructional videos on the esoteric, on contacting the ancestors, on doing spirit evocation, on self-hypnosis to get rid of fear or transition to a new parallel reality, all that good stuff. So become a Patreon supporter. And right now we're doing some really cool Qigong classes, and I love Qigong. Last but not least, share this video with family and friends so we can get this revolution started. You love those dramatic pauses, right? So, Harun Nefer, how are you? How's it going? I want to talk real briefly, do a really quick video on crystal magic. Now, in Kemet, ancient Egypt, crystal magic was very, very important. It was not only practiced by the ancient Kemetic people, but it was also practiced by the Atlanteans, the ancient city of Atlantis, which some still say is myth, but we know it's real. And we know that ancient Kemet wasn't the only advanced civilization of antiquity. There were many, many others, okay? And specifically, the one thing that was really interesting about Atlantis is that crystals formed such a large part of what they do, because crystals, I think we can equate them to something similar to microchips because they hold information. They store information, and then they're very, very good for transmitting information if done properly, you know. And I can go into a whole video on how you should work with them, how you should cleanse them. But let's just talk about the most important thing. One of the things I use crystals for is to increase the power, to magnify the power of my altar. That's very important because when you're working on an objective and you say, well, I want to get more money, get a car, pay my bills, whatever, your ability to succeed and obtain that objective is directly proportional to the amount of energy you can summon. And it has to be of a specific frequency, so the energy has to be of the frequency of the thing that you're going for. And we can talk about that later, but for now, you need the energy to permeate the altar to make sure that that energy is there. This is why a lot of magicians in the occult use the magic circle. And that circle serves a number of reasons, but one of the things is to confine the energy to that domain. So as you note, I'm wearing some crystals here. And one of the great things about these crystals, the quartz crystals, as I said, is they retain energy. And if you wrap them in copper, you can then use that information that is stored within the crystal and then transfer information outward, okay? Crystals are great for wearing them because you then become the energy. It resonates, and you will create an aura, a field around you. Now, the one thing that I do, and I do it as part of a daily ritual when I'm meditating, is that I'll take my crystal, like a quartz crystal here, hold it in my hand, and when I'm meditating and seeing my objective of what I'm trying to achieve, I'm simultaneously not only shifting to that reality where that thing is that I want, but I'm also storing that information, or I'm what we call is charging the crystal itself with that particular energy, with that particular objective. Once I'm done with my meditation, I take this crystal to my altar. And there are also crystals on the altar there as well. And I take that crystal and I place it right next to the other crystal. And what that will tend to do is that will magnify. One crystal picks up on the energy and it magnifies the intent are the energy. And that creates that aura, that field around your shrine. One of the best ways to do this, again, is to wrap the crystal in copper, which is a conductor, and then you're placing it here on the other crystal, and there is a transmission of energy. Perfect. One of the films that I love the most that really kind of gets into the power of crystals is Superman, the first Superman. This is the film by Richard Donner. And Krypton was all about crystals, and how that information is stored. And I think that film really showed you how crystals used properly can be taken to the umpteenth degree. Now, of course, they took creative license with it and a lot of liberties. You had one crystal that young Clark Kent had to actually build the Fortress of Solitude. Well, I don't think crystals that we're going to be working with are going to be able to build a Fortress of Solitude, but they are going to be able to store specific information. And they are going to be a tool for you to use to transmit that information. And just as what you saw in that film, not only are you going to store the information, but you can actually erase a crystal's information and then use it for something different, which is why you should always, when you're doing your meditations and you're holding your crystals, and what we talked about is charging them, is that you are really focusing on one objective and one intent. You don't want to try and embed too much information in one crystal and try to make it multifaceted. That could be a problem because you end up confusing the energy. And if you understand anything about alchemy, when you start mixing different elements, they form a third element. You're mixing two different energies, it forms a synthesis of a third energy. And that third energy may not be what you were intending to go for. So be very careful about encoding your crystals with one specific intent and one specific energy. And the one thing you want to let me ask you a question. He's just making me laugh. Excuse me. Is there anything else we could use apart from crystals? Do you want me to change the subject of this video? Should I just change the subject because you want me to talk about anything else we could use besides crystals? All right, you gotta stop cracking me up. That kind of. Sorry, I digress. But I thought that was a bit amusing. Hey RJ, greetings, Tapu, how are you? Cleopatra in the house, Tapu. All right, okay, let me get back on my subject because you guys are making me laugh. That was just funny. Okay, but I will answer your question. Yes, there is other things you can use apart from crystals. All right, if you look here at one crystal, I have a stone attached to that crystal. If you look at my ring, this is the ring of Tahuti. There's a stone there, so you can use stones. But stones usually come pre-purposed, as we use the term. They have their own energy that they are encoded with, let's say it that much. But you can take that and enhance that energy that it's encoded with. And there are a lot of great books out there that really get into the power of stones and what each stone can do for you. The way I will work, and I'll give you an idea if you want to go pick a stone or even a crystal, is I will go to a magical supply shop and I'll tend to just pick the crystal up or the stone up and I'll hold it in my hand. And if I feel something, then I know that there's a connection. If I don't feel anything, I put it away and I don't work with it. And this goes true for crystals and stones. Okay. At some point, there should be a strong energy field that's emanating from these stones and these crystals. And if you don't feel that, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be helpful to you or it's not already encoded or pre-programmed. It just means that that relationship or that rapport in terms of the energy exchange may need some work on your part. Okay, so just to get you an understanding. Now, who is that? So just for Erbner, if I'm butchering the name, I do apologize. So just for you, we will talk about combining the idea of the stones and the crystals, okay? One of the things you can do that I find is helpful, but is not a requirement, and you may do it on your own and get different results, is number one is I do take my crystals and I put them in magic oils, Okay, so that with every objective and intent that you have, there's an oil for that. Okay, there's also magic powder for that and a magic incense for that. So sometimes I will burn an incense, say for example, that is specifically put together for the purpose of attracting money. And if I charge this crystal with the visualization of me with money, I will pass the crystal through the incense. All right, and then I will sit it back on my altar. The idea of what I'd like to do, or what I typically do, is I have enough crystals to where I put them on the outer rim of the altar to create that energy field within the altar. And of course, on the altar, I have things such as my sigils. I have magical herbs outlaid there that all align with the one intent. It's not different things like, oh, these herbs here are attracting money, these herbs here for love. That's going to create mass confusion and a mismatch of energy. You don't want to do that, okay? So again, make sure that everything is associated. Let me give you an example. So if I want to go for money, I'm going to have my altar set up in a certain direction. I'm going to do a meditation on Thursday. I'm going to use Jupiter incense, okay? With Jupiter, the biggest planet in the solar system. Jupiter is abundance. That's good for attracting wealth. And I'm going to charge my crystals on the Thursday, and then I will pass them through the incense when I burn the incense, okay? And then once you put all of that on your altar, it's a good idea, if you're going to go to work that morning, go jogging or whatever, to take the crystal, put it in your pocket, and carry it with you. It creates an energy field. I remember one time I was going out to a social event, and I took this crystal, put it in my pocket, and I forgot that I had these crystals on me because they were inside. And I was going through security. Security stopped me, and he looked at the crystals I had. And then he was like, oh, yeah. And he pulled out his own crystals from under his shirt. And we started having this conversation, okay? A very good conversation. So the thing about that was very interesting, like every time I would return to that venue, they always remember me as the crystal guy. So they're like, oh yeah, you had all those crystals on you, because I was taking them out my pocket, on my neck, and everything. See, because in addition to being a superstar filmmaker that I am, what I endeavor to do with my magic and as an artist is to create such a powerful energy field around me that my mere presence to people, they pick up on it and it changes their disposition, if that makes sense. I work with a lot of therapists, and I speak to them and I learn their techniques so I can apply it and use it to my clients. And the one thing that I try not to get so trapped into is the Anubis Sebek way of thinking. So what is that? A lot of therapists, they have been trained on it's not accurate to say this, but I'll say it, the Greek methodology of therapeutic approach. That means I talk you through an understanding of what causes your problems or what's going on in your life. Rather, because I've studied with some of the most successful people in the self-help industry, I've learned different techniques to apply. So I don't tend to talk you through an epiphany. Rather, I use my energy vibration to affect you so that it changes your vibrational frequency to match mine. And when that happens, you feel comforted, you feel better, you feel as though everything's not hopeless. There's hope for the world. You understand what I mean? So when I teach you guys and I talk about hypnosis, we're dealing with a very powerful thing. And this is why I don't do YouTube videos too much on psychic influence, real dark hypnosis, which is what I learned. Because I don't want people manipulating other people, which is very easy to do using these techniques. Because when I started to learn these different disciplines, when I started to understand therapy, how I could help people, and that really turned me on, if I can use that expression. Other people were saying, Kasank, you're so good at hypnosis, you should do stage hypnosis. I said, I don't want to do stage hypnosis. I don't want to have people on the stage dancing around as if they're giraffes or dogs or cats or whatever. That doesn't move my spirit, you know. What moves my spirit is making real lasting change and profound change within people, to where I can save people from jumping off that cliff, where I can pull them back and say, yes, you're fucked. This world is fucked. But there is hope. And it hurt me to my heart, to be honest with you, that when I went to one of the priests who trained me, and I said to him, I don't know which direction to go. Please tell me. I want to help people, but I also want to express my aunt Hathor, her wish to bring beauty and joy and artistic expression in the world. And he did a reading. And of course, he went to the oracle, he went to God. And what he told me was what I didn't want to hear. And it hurt. It hurt. And he said, Kasank, you have talent, yes, as a filmmaker. But the reading revealed something really interesting. And the reading said that you have a power that needs to be expressed as a Kemetic priest, and that you will help people. And I will be honest with you, that is not what I wanted to do. I was like, not that I have an aversion to that or I don't like helping people, but I was like, whoa, the real joy that I experience comes from being on a film set. And though, yes, I do experience that joy in helping people, I lean toward the other. And then he said, well, he said a couple of things. Well, he says, you know, you're extremely handsome. I said, oh, thank you. Thank you. But I digress. He goes, there is something that you have. You have a power that's unique and that's going to be able to help people. This is why Neter needs you to do this. And I was like, oh, Jesus. And you must understand that we're so indoctrinated into Western society, and I say that a lot because we think that the way to solve problems is through verbal discourse. It's not. Your presence can help people. Just your mere being there can help people. The energy that you give off can be a very therapeutic, healing energy, whether you realize it or not. You are a crystal. You are a magic stone. But right now, you've not been taught to use that power within you to vibrate at that particular frequency, because you've been taught by the ruling elite to shut your uchat, your third eye, down so you don't emanate that energy. So you cannot be of service to humanity. So you cannot give that energy off. So in comes crystals and stones that will help us. And remember, these are permission slips. We give ourselves permission to use these things in our magical practice. But what the reality is, Neter, Nebecher, Yahweh, God, Allah made us abundant, complete. We don't need anything. We really don't need a crystal. But because your belief system, Sebek, has you thinking that these what do they call it in the occult fetishes? Magical tools have power, then you make use of them because you believe they have power. But the reality is, the truth is, you have the power, which is why when you realize it, you're embedding the crystal with your energy. And if your energy is negative, then that crystal will be very negative. When Howard Carter, the thief, Egyptologist, raided the tombs of Egypt, one by one, his men started to drop dead. And he equated to the curse of King Tut, that he raided the tomb, and because of the curse, they started to drop dead. Well, that has a lot of truth in it, because the energy that our ancestors understood how to manipulate could be used to protect tombs, especially of the pharaohs. And in the same way that those energies can be used to protect a tomb, and anybody were to violate that tomb and rob it would drop dead, you could use that energy to bring you wealth, to bring you love, to bring you abundance in this life. However, in order to do that, you must first change who you are. One of the best ways to charge a crystal, which you'll find out, is to use another technique for you. What I do is I recite a mantra, a specific mantra. Again, we're getting into energies here, specific frequencies, the mantra of wealth. So I may recite Om Shiring, and I'll recite that for about 24 hours at least. Therefore, my body, the subatomic particles in my body, you know, they're always vibrating. They're vibrating at what we call your core frequency. And what you recite a mantra, it changes that core frequency or mitigate or changes it by a small degree so that you're emanating that frequency that relates to, for example, the acquisition of money. And when your body is at that frequency, you're at the prime time to charge the crystal. Now, if you want to enhance that, what you would do is I would get a magical bath wash and I would put it all over my body while I'm chanting as well. That increases the energy even more. So that when I do the meditation, I sit down to meditate on that Thursday, and I'm holding the crystal, I charge it. And then I transfer that energy by putting the crystal on the altar next to the other crystal, and then it serves as a magnifying glass and it magnifies the energy and it creates that aura or that field around the shrine. And that is very important at that point, that you don't have your mate or anybody come in and contaminate the energy by touching your shrine, by touching your crystals. All my mates know, you know, you can feel me up and touch me anywhere you want, but don't touch my crystals, all right? They're very much aware of that. And if they do touch your crystals, then you'll need to cleanse them in a wash using salt water. Even when I was going in that venue and the gentleman was checking me for, I guess they check you for contraband, or I think he just was attracted to me, so he wanted to feel me up. I don't know. I digress. But anyway, he knew when he saw that I had the crystals not to touch them. He was schooled in that knowledge. So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, I want you to think about this. If you are working with one particular crystal like I have for years, decades, in your time of need, you should have a crystal that relates to every individual thing that you will need in life. Example, this crystal is for money. This crystal is for love. This crystal specifically is to enhance my magical power. This crystal here is to become more social, to make friends, to influence people, especially in my presentations and my business dealings. And then another crystal is for when I'm writing my scripts, to make me more creative, to attract agents and producers to me in my projects. So you have those different crystals that you've charged over and over again over the years. Do you know how powerful your magic will be if you start to implement that? And when you carry it on your person, you're going to give off such an aura that you'll notice an immediate change in people when they deal with you. That's the one problem that we have in society, is that we keep trying to change people through a verbal exchange, through verbal discourse, through argument, through debate. You can change people through your aura by having crystals on your person. If you've charged a crystal for 15 years with a specific goal, and you place that under your pillow and you go to sleep, you're going to have some far out dreams. And those dreams are going to either give you a glimpse of the future, you'll be psychic, or they may give you information on how to acquire money or how to do good as an entrepreneur, or how to summon spirits, because spirits are attracted to certain crystals. So think about that. In fact, I have, if you ever come, I have one cabinet in particular. And if you open that cabinet, it is full of so many magical powders, magical herbs, it's ridiculous. And there are certain magical herbs that I don't mess with, that are used to attract very, very powerful spirits, very powerful herbs. I only use those. It's like you see that thing on the wall, it says, in case of emergency, break glass. I only use those in tough, dire situations. But what I will do is I will take one specific crystal and I will place it in that herb and let it sit there for years and years so it can absorb that energy. So I can take it out and not only use the herb in the ritual, but use the crystal to carry on my person, to summon the spirits that I may need to help me. Or, and many times I do this, and I didn't used to do this, and this is my fault, where I would find myself in situations where I would be the victim. You know, you have friends who backstab you, say bad things. And I learned fairly quickly how to summon spirits and work with crystals and carry them so those spirits will protect you and look out for your interests and make sure that no one did you wrong. And if they did do you wrong, that wrong will be visited upon them thrice, 3 times. So this is something we all should be working with to protect ourselves and to bring us peace and prosperity in this lifetime. And for those of you who are interested, there are shamanistic traditions, shape-shifting, that you can get into. And I used to do this a lot when I was into coaching, where you could have certain crystals that could make you more attractive. Again, shape-shifting. You would take on a different appearance, a different look that would help you in your dating and your interactions. There was one particular guy who had, the two of us were really close friends. We were what they call as uchi-deshi students. We studied the Japanese secret black magic arts together. And he learned to use crystals to create invisibility fields And now I, at that point in my study, was thinking, oh, that's a little bit too far now. I don't think that's possible. And I'm not going to go into details of this, but one time he actually demonstrated it to me at an airport in the Midwest. At a busy airport, he demonstrated that power of invisibility. And to this day, I'm still in awe of how he did that. I was like, wow, that was some serious high level magic you were employing there. Really good stuff. And these are things that he learned and other things that he studied on his own. Because when you get to one of the things you'll learn when you start studying with different magicians, sages, and gurus is that they always tend to keep things from you. They don't want to give their students everything. So they will save certain things, and it will frustrate the hell out of you because you want to know everything. And this gentleman, I think that was his pain point, rightly so, because he wasn't getting the support he needed from the teacher, because the teacher refused to show him the darker arts, to really get into all of that stuff. Whereas I wasn't too concerned about that at that time. I said, well, I've gotten what I need out of this. But he wanted to take it further and learn those things. So he went on to study and get the Japanese manuals and discovered the secret himself and applied it, which is kudos to him. That was really brilliant, And there were other students there that we were all working. And when you're in that type of fellowship, let me tell you something. If you want to be a really strong magician, fellowship is one of the best things you can do. I remember when I was doing my readings with the tarot, and one thing that frustrated me was I was coming up with the hermit, the hermit, the hermit. And what the tarot was trying to tell me to do is, listen, you need to get with fellowship with others, and you need to do a knowledge exchange program. No one man is an island. And I had to learn and pick up on that, because a lot of people in the occult, especially when they get to a high level, tend to become isolated. Kind of like Yoda on Dagobah, just him by himself, So you have to learn and grow. But I had spent that time. I had spent that time traveling the country and learning from different gurus and sages. But anyway, back to the topic at hand, which was crystals. And we were talking about using them as a form of protection. And this is what we did in Kemet. This is what we did in Atlantis. We took our knowledge of crystals to the umpteenth level. Unfortunately, much of that knowledge is gone now. And I sincerely mean that, because there's a lot more that we can do with crystals. Case in point, back to Superman, the movie, the Richard Donner film, that we have not really ventured into because we don't have that knowledge anymore. It's gone. You must understand that the ruling elite has done a magnificent job in destroying all of the great libraries of antiquity. They've destroyed them. And those that they haven't destroyed, they've taken the papyrus and the books and hid them in the catacombs of the Vatican. So you and I are not privy to that information anymore. And I remember asking the king I was studying with, the priest, the high priest, showing respect, how do we get that knowledge back? And he was like, Kassan, don't you know? That knowledge is in the Akashic records. All you need to do is tap into the Akashic records. But that information is hidden behind second gates, and you must be able to cite the right mantra or incantation to open that second gateway so the information will come down to you and you'll be able to download it. Because those psychic gates protect the information. And you must learn, when you approach the gate, there will be a gatekeeper, and you must say the right mantra or the right spell for the gatekeeper to open the gate and release the information. And many of us have forgotten. You see, Michael Osera, Tep, you are bombarded, Clifton Davison, Tepu, with propaganda, with lies. Autumn West, namaste. You see, when you look at TV and they show you Africa and they show you the Maasai warriors, they are a conquered people. The way they adorn themselves, the things they practice, are remnants, the aftermath of a destroyed people and a destroyed culture. Because in reality, what you should be seeing is their kingdoms, their high priests and priestesses, but you don't see them because the ruling elite destroyed all of that. So what the propaganda of the mainstream media does is to make you think that when you see these Maasai warriors, the Dogon people, Dogon tribe, that is at the height of their knowledge, that is at the height of their civilization. That is not. That is a look at a people who have been destroyed. And don't get it twisted. Don't be fooled by the propaganda to think that that's at the zenith of our civilization. It's not. It's not. That's not how we should be. That's not how we were. But they're very good at showing those things so they can label them as a primitive, pagan, backward. And of course, most people, modern people who have a true thirst for understanding the knowledge, look at that and they're taken aback and they're like, well, I don't know if I really want to get into that because they seem so primitive. It's designed to come off that way, to keep you from investigating and then uncovering the real truth of looking under the earth at the buried kingdoms, researching and finding more of the information. Because we're talking about a planet at one time that was such in an advanced state that we achieved the level of gods. And now the way we are now, including modern Western man, is deaf, dumb, and stupid. We don't know anything. We have lost the knowledge of the occult. We have lost the knowledge of how to properly use crystals. We've lost the knowledge of properly how to use stones and herbs. We don't really know. I mean, we as occultists and magicians are picking up and trying to put all the pieces back together again as best we can with what we have left and what we can find. But the information is so small that we're going to have to tune into the Akashic Records. And believe you, my beloved, to get that information at the Akashic Records is not easy. It is not easy. You see, the people that do have this knowledge are the dark forces, the cabal, the ruling elite. This is why they practice their elaborate rituals in secrecy. This is why they do the human sacrifices in secrecy, because they do open portals to different dimensions to contact dark entities. And they sit at the foot of these dark entities to receive information and knowledge on how to control this realm. That's our knowledge that they have stolen from us, that they're using for evil purposes. So we need to trace it back, resurrect that information, and start to use it for life-affirming principles. to bring light to the world, to put the planet back on its course. Because the way we're living now, we shouldn't be living this way, in fear, in darkness. And I mean darkness. We're so primitive in our thinking that we look at certain things and we're scared. You should never be scared of a spirit or a ghost that comes into your home. You should never be afraid of that. You should not be afraid of death, because it's merely a transition from one state to another. Why should you be afraid of it? The Egyptians celebrated death as much as they celebrated life. They had no fear of the afterlife because they already opened communication with those departed ancestors. So those departed ancestors really counseled them and told them what it was like in the afterlife. So they had no fear when they would transition. But because we're not privy to the information, we have a lot of fear and hang up about passing on to the next life. We're terrified of it, whereas we shouldn't be. And that's partly because we've been caught up to believe that we are the physical being and not the spirit. We forget that we are having a very limited experience. We forget that true essence is infinity. It's eternal, who we are. And the pain that you may go through in this lifetime really is only for a minute part of your total eternal existence. And when you look at eternity, when you look at infinity, you have to ask yourself, well, is this life and the hardships I'm going through in this life, will I remember this actually? Because I'm going to be incarnated millions and millions of times. So why get hung up on one particular experience? Why get hung up on the fact that I may not have the things that I want? I may experience lack in this lifetime, when in reality, I'm going to experience a number of other lives where I will have abundance. You play different roles and you transition to different people you become. You play different parts in this movie because Neter wants to experience it all. Oh no, I wasn't thrown off, AJ. I thought it was just it was funny. It just it's all cool. Don't worry about it. It's good that you ask questions. I want people to ask questions, so don't worry about it. You know, and that's exactly right, Autumn. It's those religions, those Western religions, are there to keep you afraid, or to make you afraid, to instill within you the incorrect belief systems. And I want you to understand how diabolical the system is. I want you to understand how diabolical the system is. Not only do they create these fictitious religions, these Western religions, but they convert you in such a way that you become their biggest advocate. You go out there and proselytize about religion. You preach the word. So not only are you indoctrinated into a false belief system, if you fall in victim to a lie, you work as hard as you can to bring others into the fold. And that's very damaging, which is why we have to correct that, which is why we have to take a stand and say enough is enough. We know enough about what the ruling elite has done to our civilizations and what they have done to the planet. It's time now to start getting things back on track as to where we should be going. Because at this point in our history, world history, if you go out to the night sky and you look up at all the stars, we should have colonized all of those stars. That's how advanced we were and should be at this point in history. People joke about, here we are in 2020 and we don't even have flying cars. Well, there's a reason for that. That's because the ruling elite is keeping technology from us. They have the technology to travel to planets. They already have that technology to explore distant worlds. They have it, but they will not release it. This is why a certain percentage of the budget goes to black ops projects, highly secret and experimental projects that you and I will never be aware of or know of. We already know that the military has advanced weaponry. That's everyone should understand that the weaponry that you see at the military exhibits today, right now, is not the most advanced technology that they have. They're keeping that from you, which makes sense because you don't go out there and reveal your cards to the enemy. So they're not going to publicly show you. There was a movie years ago that I was working with the filmmakers all called The Panama Deception. And in the movie, they interviewed people who were victims of the United States raids. And they said that they saw that the United States had lasers that would disintegrate stone and people. And that film was what? That was over, 15, 20 years ago? So think what they have now. You know what I mean? So anyway, getting back on track to what I was saying, in terms of enhancing your magic, enhancing your power, one of the best things you can employ is crystal magic and stones. And you should have an altar set up. You should be meditating on a consistent basis. And you should be charging your crystals with a specific intent. Now it's up to you. You can put the crystals in a magical oil or pass them through an incense that will help increase their power. But the goal is to create that field around you and your altar. And that field contains a specific energy vibration that you, as a magician, by your will, symbolized by your magic wand, galvanizes that energy, molds it, and shapes it into the thing you want. Until you start to shift through different parallel realities until you get to your destination reality where you achieve your objective. And I'm going to tell you, here's a little something for you to think about. When I do rituals and magic that focus primarily on me getting more money, there's a reason why I want more money. And that's not to buy a bigger house. That's not to buy a better car. It is to buy more crystals and stones to create a gigantic, elaborate ritual. That's my goal. I want to create such a ritual altar that has the most powerful herbs and stones on it that could literally open a dimension, to break a hole in the fabric of space-time, to open a dimension to bring a new world in. And that is possible. It's not fantasy, but it takes a lot of energy to do that. A lot of energy to do that. And it takes a lot of crystals, a lot of herbs, and a lot of other stuff. But that is my goal, is to build such a structure. And that has, I would need a factory warehouse for that, to construct all of that. And the moment you would walk into that factory, the energy would hit you so much so that you would pass out, because the energy would be that powerful. That's when you know you're on the right track. And that's what we did in ancient Kemet. That is how powerful our rituals were. because the rituals were not small little things. They were big, large, elaborate rituals. And the ruling elite does that now during their Super Bowls. They have those singers to come on and do their little thing, which really is just an occult ritual, you know? But anyway, I want to thank you all for tuning in to receive this message and to please make use of, this knowledge. Donate to the channel if you are in a position to do so. If you have any questions, always email me. I'm happy to answer your questions. So this is Ksarkma Keperu, son of Ma and Tuli. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next broadcast, Amen Ra.